Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Biz Buffet. Small Business Stories is the podcast, and we've got, as we do every week, a tremendous guest. We had the good opportunity of meeting for coffee a few weeks ago, and I learned a lot about Michael Pilla and what he's doing with respect to his creative endeavors. And what I really, really loved about the messages that he was sending, it's all about no nonsense design, very practical, very simple, and it's what we need in these times, right? To cut through all that noise. So let me welcome Michael from Pilla Creative Marketing. Hi, Michael.
Hi, hi. Thank you for having me this morning.
Well, always excited to talk to other entrepreneurs and
Right,
creators, and especially in this kind of weird and wacky world where we've got AI that you can't live without in marketing, but at the
right.
same time, AI doesn't get it all done. So I want to hear from you. Why don't we start off first a little bit about
Sure.
what you're seeing in the marketplace right now? Give us kind of that trend spotting kind of perspective from your expert lens.
Okay, from where I'm sitting, literally, yeah, I think there is a lot of confusion. I think there are like too many coaches, there's too many people giving advice. They all appear to be giving either it's ironic. It's either conflicting advice or they're all giving the same
Mhm.
advice. And I'm really not sure what it sort of adds up to. And a lot of why I got into no nonsense design is the entire area of branding appears to be getting very, very esoteric. And I think a lot of the high level psychographic, whatever you want to call it, uh, aspects of branding don't really apply to small businesses. I think a guy with a small business is looking to sell a widget or whatever, and that's his focus. And I think a lot of the other stuff is just confusing and it just sort of puts them off track. Now, AI, depending on who you talk to, is the greatest thing to ever happen or the worst thing to ever happen, and I fall somewhere in the middle. I've been playing around with it for a couple of months. I've used it to augment what I'm already doing. I do some writing, so I use it to do my research. Um, I recently put together a video, which was I think was very, very successful. I'm starting to use it for SEO, but I think part of being I'm Italian by my ethnicity, or Sicilian to be specific, and we kind of don't really trust anything. So there's a lot of skepticism that comes with this sort of ethnicity. So that I bring that skepticism to AI. I mean, I'm not looking at it to do everything. I don't entirely trust it, but I'm willing to pick out what works for me, under that umbrella and make the best of it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of
It does, as far as like some of the parts of it. So I think
right,
it's important to look at everything with skepticism and also
right.
to look at things where trends, they come and they go, right?
Yeah,
And so I
right,
think we need to have that lens too. And I like how you carved out that the bigger organizations, right? They can afford to do this, do that, full branding and everything else. But the little organizations, us little small guys, right? These small business
right,
operators and entrepreneurs that we are, we're really just trying to get it done. We want to have our flag in the ground and say, we sell these widgets, come buy them,
right.
right? But branding, it's just become so rote. Everything is AI. Let's generate a logo. Oh, what colors do you like, Laurelyn? Oh, what fonts? Great. What do you think about
Well,
all that?
well, that's always been something that I've argued with people about. I mean, I think branding is on a higher level. It's about basically who you are as a person, who you are as a company. What you stand for, what you deliver, what people can expect from you. What level of credibility do you offer? So that sort of goes beyond the logo, the color, whatever. Which is why I start every project with something I call a brand scan, a BRANDSCAN, and it's an in-depth interview. So it goes on for about an hour where I really get to know the client. And actually, in many cases, the client gets to know themselves. Uh, and we get into who they are, what they do best, who's their ideal customer, and where do they sit now in the marketplace? What are their roadblocks for moving forward? We take all that information. I put together a PowerPoint presentation, which I refer to as a roadmap to success. And what
Mhm.
that does is it gives both of us a common starting point. so that any creative that happens moving forward, we both know where that comes from. So we're not like it's not just picking things out of the air. You know what I mean? It's and as a graphic designer, I was always again interested in the why of things. I could basically create anything. What I want to do is create the right thing. Uh, and a lot of times the client doesn't even know what that is. So that sort of discovery phase is crucial to the way I work, and it does streamline the process moving forward. That's sort of the initial no nonsense part of no nonsense design is let's work with some data. Let's work with some real world information about you and your company. And let's move forward from there and find things that are right for you. Let's not um just glom on to the latest thing that's happening. Let's not go to these places for $99. They'll give you like 100 versions of your logo. Okay, now what? You know?
That's just it. I think this actually, your answer here sets us up for my next question, which we like to early in the podcast give our
Right,
listeners and watchers value up front.
sure.
So if you had messages now that you wanted to share, hey, small business owners, entrepreneurs, here's my tip. Is the tip, don't do that $99 unlimited logo variations? Or what is it? Which you've got tremendous expertise and
Right,
you've been really dialing into what the customer needs, why they need it, and who they are, which is really that's the ethos of the brand.
right.
Give us some advice. What do you want to tell small business owners?
Well, I mean exactly that. I mean, look at your business as almost as an extension of you.
Hmm.
Look at your business as okay. The big advice I give everybody, if you start everyone is and a lot of people don't realize this, but you look at your business from the inside out. You know what you're doing. At least you think you know what you're doing. You think you know how you're coming off. You think you know how people perceive you, but that's not necessarily what's happening. And I try to tell them, look at your business from the outside in. Put yourself in the shoes of the consumer, and which is sort of the role I play when I'm working with people. Is I'm sort of like, even though I'm working for the client, I'm an advocate for the customer. You know, and to remember that before people came to your website, they probably weren't thinking about you, right? So,
Right.
so what are you hitting them with immediately when they show up? What's their need? They showed up to buy a widget. So how are you going to put them in the position of buying your widget? Your widget is better than everybody else's. I used to have an expression, which I should make into a t-shirt, which says something like, you're always a click away from oblivion. Meaning, if you don't grab
Oh,
people right away, they're gone. And once they're gone, they may not come back. So, how do you take advantage of those initial nanoseconds when somebody, they have a need in mind, or they may not even know they need what you're selling. So how do you present yourself as this, this is what we do, and it's really something you really should look into.
well, I think that this is just it, right? I mean, so we have a lot of parallels. I'm always talking about we help small businesses get seen, right?
Right,
Because
right,
you're on that other side of it. Okay, once you're seen, you've set up, you've got your website.
right,
Most folks do. I mean, it's part of anything. You buy a
right,
domain, they throw it in. It's like, oh,
right,
here, whatever, insert brand X here, for
right.
whatever,
Yes,
25 bucks a month.
sure.
Here's your
Right,
website,
right,
right?
right. Yeah,
And it's very generic. It's this, it's that. But your point, which I like, that you're one click away from oblivion, it's the same thing with a resume. They're saying now it's
right,
2.5 to 3 seconds to look at you and go, no,
right. Yeah, yeah,
it's right. And so, but then on the other side, I think where some of these small business owners that I've spoken to and his clients and just at networking meetings, they say
right,
like, a website's a website. It doesn't really matter. I'm doing most of the stuff by word of mouth and referrals anyway. How do you
right.
answer that, Michael?
Well, there are several answers to that question. First of all, you never know about the business you're not getting.
Haha. Bingo,
You
bingo,
don't
bingo.
know.
Right? If I had little bullseyes, I'd be like, doot, doot, doot.
You don't know. You have no clue as to all the people who showed up or the people who don't show up because you just didn't grab them to begin with. Um, The other thing is, well, that's a big thing, really. There was some of this, oh, your website is a website, right? No, a website is the front face of your business. Now you can, if you treat it that way, you can say, oh yeah, well, I'll just be like everybody else. You're going to blend into the background, and yeah, you're right. You're not going to get a lot of traction. And the other thing to keep in mind is websites are um, the biggest aid to word of mouth advertising there is. So somebody hears about you. You get a referral from a past customer or something. What's their next step?
They go to
They're
your
either
website.
they're probably going to Google and eventually get to your website. And if what they find is either outdated or confusing or just irrelevant, again, they're clicking and they're out of there. Google has come up with a stat which is really interesting, which is called the zero moment of truth.
Oh, I don't know
And
this.
yeah,
Share.
the zero moment of truth is just before a potential customer realizes they have a need. So I say, oh, I want to buy a car. That's my zero moment of truth. So what do? I do research, right? So you go to Google, you go to your friends, you go to social media, whatever, and it basically follows the path of the customer all the way to getting to your website. And even when they get to the website, how do you then sort of reel them in and close the sale? So I guess my message, if you were, to small businesses is try to look at this as a process. Instead of standalone items, like I have a website, I have a brochure, I go to do networking, I do whatever. Look at all of that as part of an overall process where all of those pieces fit together, ending up with you. Obviously, what I almost find funny is you have all this like stuff going on, and the real purpose of all of it is to get somebody to pick up a phone and call you.
Isn't that the funny thing, right? I mean,
Right.
but it's just, let's talk about that too, because people aren't doing phone calls anymore. I mean, there's still spammers,
Right.
like they seem to be
Right. Real
pretty
bad. Yeah.
active, right? There seems to be no
Right. Right.
slowdown there. But everybody else isn't doing phone calls. And studies have shown, Gen Z in particular, not to pick on them, I'm not saying
Right.
that, but just the studies, the data show
Sure.
that Gen Z does not want to make phone calls. So, how do we get to move people from our website to a place of action where they reach out to us and say, hey, I want to talk about designing my website? How do we
Right.
get that to happen?
That's right. You're right. Well, again, it's always a matter of targeting. Um, there's people maybe don't read a lot of the email they get, but they do read the email they're interested in.
Mhm.
And in my business, um, people only want to talk about websites when they actually need one. So the point is to keep in touch with people, keep that sort of like channel of communication open until the need arises. People need to know you before they need you.
And I
You know
think
what I
that's a
mean?
really important tip, like in networking. It's just
Right,
everything, like they say it takes whatever, I don't know, insert the statistic, I should know
right,
better, but something
right,
like 8 or 9 interactions, where an interaction might be an email nudge, it might be seeing you in an ad, some ban or something, it might be seeing you at a networking event, whatever
right,
it is,
right,
until they start to equate, oh, Michael Pilla equals Pilla Creative, no nonsense design website. And they go, yeah, yeah, she's building some, she needs a website. What's that guy's name? Michael something, right?
right, right. That's what I mean. You need to be in there before they need you. Uh, the funny little story. I actually got that tagline from I belong to a networking group, and one of the members of the networking group was a private investigator.
Oh.
And every week you get up and talk about your business, and every week we go, it's better to know me and not need me than to need me and not know me. So I thought that was great. So I
Oh,
sort of adapted that.
brilliant.
The irony is he always screwed it up every week. It's better to know me than no wait. It's better he could never he could never sort of get, and it's a great tagline. I mean, and obviously that's a lot of different applications. And it's sort of like the purpose of advertising is people know you before they need you, because
Well, that's just it. And I want to break this down a little bit.
yeah,
So
sure.
recognizing that some people get nervous in front of a group, they have to stand up and say who they are, and so they might
Right.
mince their
Right,
words or
right.
whatever else, or stutter or things like that because they've got some anxiety in front of a crowd. Understood. But it could also be, right, that this individual, that wasn't his original tagline. And
Mm.
so if it's not authentic to you and to your brand, it's really hard to
Mhm.
stand behind it, right? It wasn't the way he naturally spoke or conveyed it.
Right,
So it could have been
exactly.
some of that too, right? That's a possibility. We
No,
don't
no,
know.
definitely. No, now that you mention it, that probably is. That probably was the case. It really, yeah, because he didn't speak that way normally.
Right. And so this is, I think, part of what's really important too with your brand. Yeah, you can pay some AI tool or even a lot of free tools and have like, it's the logo. But what kind of thought did you put into it? And as someone who's done branding exercises with Fortune 100s, with some of the
Right.
top
Yeah,
five marketing companies in the world over and over and over again, as a
right,
small business owner, I know I can't endure that pain, really, because it can be painful, that
sure.
length of time, that distraction away from all the other stuff I have to do for that extended
Right,
period,
right,
or the
exactly.
cost, right?
Right.
I can't do it. Just can't. I'm a small business. So you've got to think about ways that you can be represented and talk to us in this era of video, how important it is now to have video on your website.
Well, crucial. One thing I will say about video on a website, I really despise websites that start with a video because I found it amazingly attractive. Maybe I don't know what the stats are. Maybe I'm wrong. Personally, I just find it incredibly distracting. Is that I go to a website, I don't know anything about this company, and they're showing me a movie about, and it's generally a lot of quick cuts, and it's basically people in offices or some other thing, and I have no idea what's going on, and I'm getting dizzy. Okay.
On
And
autoplay. So you don't
yeah,
even
I
have
hate
the chance to be
autoplay.
like, I don't want to
I
watch
hate
this yet. Wait, I
autoplay.
want to
I
read
don't know
some,
what the
right?
hell is going on, and it's like there's all this stuff happening. But you're right. Authenticity is, and for years, authenticity has been the key to. Well, it's a solid, the bedrock of branding is
That's right.
authenticity.
That's right.
Uh, and the other thing I wanted to mention is small businesses for all this talk here actually have an advantage. And I think even large companies should act like small businesses. So small businesses uh, know their customers intimately because they deal with them directly, either even if it's through some electronic, media, they deal with their clients directly every day. So they really know who their customers are. They know what they do. Most of them have one or two things that they built their businesses on, and they're experts in those areas, and they can really provide value and service to those customers. And the third thing about small businesses, since they're small, they can turn on a dime. If things change, they can afford to play around with AI and drop it or use it for what's good for them. They don't have a huge corporate apparatus, they don't have like a
Right.
Titanic of a business that avoid the
Literally.
iceberg, basically,
Well, that's a perfect segue, Michael, for a next question I have. A lot of our
Yes,
listeners ask and say, share the mistakes that either you've done to get to where you are or mistakes that you've seen, of course, without naming clients. There's no judgment
right,
here. This is a
right.
really, truly a community space. We're trying to
Yes,
help
of
each
course. No,
other.
I wouldn't, yeah, no, no, I wouldn't name names.
No.
Of course not. No. Mistakes is just basically sticking to some old or something that worked in the past, you know, or of not accurately defining what it is you're doing. And the biggest example I have is the best example is a particular nonprofit organization that was also an arts organization. And all of their promotion and all of their advertising leaned heavily into getting people to make donations
Sure.
while avoiding what it is they do. And the art part, the creative part of the business was very interesting. Basically they were a live entertainment venue. So instead of leaning into the excitement of live entertainment and getting people interested that way, they were basically getting into the good and not that this is bad, but the good they do in the community and the good they do for artists and all this other stuff. But it's not as exciting, you know,
Mm,
not as it doesn't draw people in, and because you want to draw people in who don't know you. So
right.
And as I basically told the client, I said, nobody's buying a ticket because it's good for them. You basically, you're an entertainment venue. Your first job is to entertain people, and then once you get them in, they'll probably be more than happy to make a donation. They've got, you're setting up some good vibes. You're giving them a good experience so they can see where that money is going. So that would be one error I see is again not fully understanding what your business is and what your target market wants. And then making assumptions for them, I think, is always a mistake. So.
I know I've made some like silly little errors, but I've made them and not corrected them within weeks or any sort of timely way. It's
Yeah.
taken me months.
Yes.
For example, updating the copyright at the bottom, last update 2024 or whatever. Well,
Well, yeah.
we're in April 2025, or broken links to my social media when Twitter became X, right? And that just
Right.
messed
Yes. Well,
everything
things
up.
like
And then
that.
there's
Yes.
right new broken link or whatever else. And YouTube, I've changed the name of my YouTube channel. Things like that you've got to go back in. It's not a set it and forget it. It has to be a living and breathing thing. And I
Definitely.
know,
Yeah.
right? I've been living and breathing with my website for months. I've been changing it and doing things. And then
Right.
I have a different approach. And
Yes.
every business owner is going to do different things. And I recognize this is the nature of your business. You design websites for people. I'm trying to be more economical about it. So I use whatever available templates, WordPress, this, that, use
Yes.
them, kind of mock design it, figure out my words. This is what I want. And then I send it to a web dev who
Right.
builds it and puts it in for me.
Right.
But that web dev doesn't have branding expertise or any creativity. They're very good,
Right.
like functionally and technically,
Right.
but then it's on me. So then it comes back. Now I got to check. Oh, they're very good. Like, okay, they missed a link or this or that. Hey, I found it, edited it,
Right.
correct it.
Right.
We get that fixed like very quickly. High responsive. They're awesome. I love my web devs,
Right.
but it's not the same kind of collaborative approach. So I have to look at what's been done that I had designed that they implemented, kind of sit
Right.
with it and go, I don't know. I don't know. Then I've got to go back and forth with them and say, well, what about this? Can you try this? And it's like, oh, well, Laurel, and I don't know. That's really hard. That's extra money. That's in here. And so it's this give and take versus the creative process up front where I'd work with somebody as like yourself in the past, and then they'd go do and make it a living and breathing thing and keep coming back to me. And I think both options are, like I said, are viable. It just depends on what you, the small business owner, wants.
That was a great commercial for me. What
Right.
you had in
Well,
there.
and
That
that's not
explains
the intention.
why.
We're trying not to be
No, I know.
commercially here.
No, no, I'm just saying, but this entire process is sort of what and the reason
Right?
I do the thinking and the creative part up front, and
Yeah.
that's the no nonsense part. And then basically, once you get to production, you can just make it happen. Now, I've used templates, I've used tools like Squarespace and Wix to
Hmm.
do sites for smaller clients who didn't have a lot of time or money, but I still managed to put their thumbprint on it. I don't think there's any reason, again, and I know this is starting to become sort of an overused phrase, but all these things are tools. All these things are not who I am or what I provide. These are basically things in my toolbox, and I'll hammer out something that's perfect for you. How I get there, depends on the situation. But that
Right.
that initial that initial
And what you
discovery,
build,
well,
right? Like you're the master carpenter. So you've got these
right,
tools at your disposal and you're
right,
saying, hey, customer, what do you want me to build for you today? Oh, you want me to carve a grand stork,
right,
right?
right.
Great.
But
I'll do
but
it.
regardless, I guess the point I wanted to make is regardless of the actual project, that initial discovery and creative part is the same for everybody. And that's why I have a list of questions. That's why I have something of a process, and that's why I like to present you with a plan. Depending on what you need, it might be an elaborate plan, it might be just a really simple plan, but we have a plan moving forward to get you where you need to be.
And that's just it, right? It's that specificity that's needed, not
Yes.
only on the brand voice. We talked about authenticity and challenges there, but
Right.
budget, timing, how much involvement.
Yeah,
I
those all
get it.
goes into the mix, right? It's all, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got small business clients that I help with their, glow ups and different things. And some of them are very full on. They've got their hands in. They've got to be involved in every step. Others are like, just easy button, hit it. Just this is what I need. Here's some
Hmm,
money. Go away. Go do it.
right. Exactly. That's
Right?
it depends,
It's like, yeah, 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 yeah. Happy to
And
work
that,
either way.
and I
And
want to
as we're
that
getting,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to say, but
you're,
that's also regardless of the size of the client. I've had some big clients who just left me
Mhm.
alone, and I've had some smaller clients that wanted to macro manage every pixel. You
Yeah,
just can't tell.
no, different strokes, different folks, right? Just saying as we're getting close to wrapping up our podcast
Sure.
here. So, what do you think business schools are not teaching
Oh,
entrepreneurs and business owners? What do you think should be in there?
empathy. think I think business schools tend to be, if you're talking about like big time business school, I think they tend to be a little bit focused. This is a personal soapbox of mine. I think they'd be a little too focused on profits, a little too focused on the financial end of things, and not so much on the people end of things. And I think it's to everybody's
Mm,
detriment. I mean, I've worked for a number of different kind of people, and I've hired a number of different kind of people, and I've always found if you treat people like people, you get the best out of them. And I mean, I've worked for companies where I was clearly a cog, and this is okay. This is a really good story. So they clearly, and this happened to me like three, four different times. They didn't want to. I couldn't get a raise because basically, the impression I got is that I was replaceable, right? We'll just get another guy to do what you do. Now, I always exceeded my job description. I was one of those guys. I knew what everybody in the department was doing, and I always did a lot of little extra things that maybe people didn't notice because in three or four different cases, when I left, the performance of the department suffered because I wasn't irreplaceable, you know
mhm.
yes, I did all the design stuff, but I did other things. Helped people out when they needed it, kept people informed of what was happening, picked up the slack when there was slack, and having somebody who just shows up and does their little piece of the job, doesn't always do best. So I think I would again ask business schools again to see people as people and to try to
Mhm.
treat your employees as individuals. I'm trying to think now as far as um uh yeah, I mean I run into a lot of consultants, and everybody's always trying to sell me their program. Everybody's got a 7-step program that's going to make me a millionaire in 20 minutes, and
Right, exactly.
and I think we need to get rid of that sort of idea that this is instantaneous. And it's basically, we'll give you we'll make you 7-figure income. Just send us 29.95, and we'll give you that. I think the money is in the 29.95. I think that's actually how they make their money. So, I mean, stop treating this like magic, stop treating this like, that it's just dollars and cents and try to really get into the people aspect of it.
And that it's not overnight. Right. I mean, that's the
Yes.
whole thing.
Right.
Everybody's been, I think, sold a bill of goods. Now, that's true. Some people do strike lightning in a bottle very quickly and boom, 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 they're rocking and rolling from day one. They just hit something, struck a nerve, right
Right.
timing, right place, right ideas, just all
Right.
the, stars lined up, right?
Right.
But for the most of people, right, the rest of us mere mortals, with a 92% failure rate in small businesses by year one, that's not
Right.
how it goes, right?
No, no, right, right. So
Takes
you to
time.
manage expectations, but again, you got to realize you're dealing with his business or her business is to sell the program.
Right.
So keep that in mind.
That's just it. That's what they've got to do. So we're getting close to the end here. Any last bit of advice you want to give folks?
Let's see. I should have something very profound to say at this moment. Well, again, you're not only get your website, but promoting your business is not just promoting your business. It's basically, it's a holistic endeavor, especially if you're a small business person. Your business is an extension of you. Uh, and the more you can get yourself into your promotion, your advertising, whatever it is you want to call it, the more you're going to stand out. The whole point is to stand out in a very, very crowded field. And the way to do that is to be your most authentic self. You don't need to appeal to everybody. Mass market is kind of a thought of the thing of the past. Find your niche, and basically find out who those people, and most likely those people are going to be exactly like you. That's why you're doing business with them, and just basically really work that, refine that, and keep reaching out to those people. And I think you'll find more success than you think you will.
Excellent. So I've got our signature question of the show. So if we
Right.
looked into your closet and we saw some shoes, some footwear, some something, what pair of footwear, boots, sneakers, flip-flops,
Oh,
whatever it is, personifies your personality and describe that pair of shoes or whatever it is? Tell us
oh, I got
why
it. I
that's your
got it. I got
personality.
it. Yes, I got it. It's a
Okay.
pair of sneakers. A pair of sneakers, but they're from Coach. These are Coach sneakers. They have sort of like well, they have the Coach logo all over them, but they're like very shades of gray. They're very, very classy looking. The Coach logo on a sneaker is sort of a little whimsical. It's a little witty, there's a little bit of it's almost a sarcastic comment on Coach because they're known for being, for doing, fine leather goods and scarves
Right.
and here they are, it's a pair of sneakers, like and so those that would personify me, my Coach sneakers.
Excellent. So, Michael, how can people get a hold of you or find you?
Okay, well, the website name is Pilla, PILLACM.com, PillaCM.com. I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn might be the easiest way to find me. Just look for Michael Pilla with this face, right there. That would be. So those would be the two easiest ways. Is there anything else you think I should do? I
No, I
should,
think that that's a great way for folks to take a look at you, to how to find
yes,
you. And of
I
course, we
would start
always
with,
add the links in our
yeah.
descriptions when we do our podcast and our video. So they'll
Mhm.
be able to find you there for sure. But sometimes people like to hear it. They're in their car listening to the podcast.
Sure, sure.
All right. So
Right,
with that, Michael Pilla of Pilla Creative, No Nonsense Design, thank you
right.
for sharing your insights about how to approach websites and really branding in general and bigger picture. Thank you for
Yes.
being on our show.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun, and hopefully you'll have me again. So,
Oh, I love to have my guests again. Like, in fact, I keep saying like, oh, I want to come back to them a couple of years later and see how it's different,
right,
but
sure.
somehow
I know
I
life
never
get life
managed to do it. It's
life
on the
gets in the
list.
way. Yes, life
It's on
gets
the
in the
list.
way. Right. Okay. All right, everybody. Just again, Michael Pila. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm all over the place. So I look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Michael.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Right.